Logan Paul, a man who really needs no introduction. I'm sure that we've all seen him at one point in our lives. Yeah. He's not a very good person. Shocker. Believe it or not, I used to watch Logan a little bit, I think back in like 2017 or something. Never Jake. I don't think I've ever unironically clicked on a Jake Paul video in my life. But Logan, from what I remember, was normally looked at as like the better of the two brothers, in terms of personality at least. But that perspective seems to be changing a bit. At least it might after you know everything that Logan's been getting up to recently. Cause it's a lot, so buckle up. To even start trying to explain what's been going on recently, we've gotta jump back a couple years to 2021. Remember NFTs? Those things that, you know, everyone was spending their life savings on that hold like absolutely no value today? Well, Logan tried his hand at creating some NFTs back in 2021. I'm sure a lot of you have probably already heard about Cryptozoo. You know, his scam that he conducted back then. That really fun game that makes you money.
I'm excited to launch my game.
You keep using and you just did it again. You keep using a word there. Game.
It's a game. It's a really fun game that makes you money.
If you actually don't know what happened, I'd suggest checking out CoffeeZilla's full series that he made on it. It's like a 3-part trilogy going on about what Logan actually got up to and how much money he actually scammed people for. His video is pretty much what brought all of this to light last year. But to keep it quick, Logan hired a group of scam artists. Sorry, that was a typo. Logan hired a group of really trustworthy businessmen to build this NFT game, if you can even call it that. The whole concept was that you basically bought and hatched these digital eggs, right? And they would give you JPEGs of like different random animals, I believe. And then you were able to breed these JPEG animals with the other JPEG animals that you bought. And then once you breed them, you get whatever this is. Absolute monstrosities, if you ask me. And then the rarer the offspring, the higher your daily yield of Zoo Coin. And then the Zoo Coin is basically their currency, which you could, I guess, cash out in exchange for real money. And then voila, you've made money. None of it ended up going that way. When people started buying the eggs, and yes, a lot of people bought the eggs, none of them hatched. So if the eggs don't hatch, you don't get your JPEG animals. And if you don't get your JPEGs, then you can't breed your JPEGs and start earning money from them. There's also no way to withdraw any of your earnings, even if you were able to get any. Millions were spent by different people that were followers of Logan Paul. They genuinely trusted that he would provide them with a legitimate service. No idea why. This is Logan Paul we're talking about here. But remember when I said Logan hired a bunch of scam artists to work on this project? I wasn't lying. I actually lied to you when I said that they were really trustworthy businessmen. I don't know if you caught that. That might have gone over everyone's head. You know, I'm just witty like that sometimes. One of the guys he hired, who goes by the name of Jake the Crypto King, rug pulled the project for over $6 million, and he seems to have gone into complete hiding ever since. Another guy, who is apparently the lead developer on the project, spent time in prison for multiple felonies. This was pointed out by Logan, by the way, in his response video that he made to CoffeeZilla, the first one that he has since taken down because it was so bad.
Coffee, you interviewed the developer who stole the game code, fled to Switzerland, and held it hostage for $1 million. Surely, as the internet detective that you proclaimed to be, you would know that he spent time in prison for multiple felonies, one for aggravated robbery, armed robbery at a liquor store, and the other for, surprise, obstructing the legal process.
So that dude apparently held the game code hostage, but the reason eventually came out that he only did that because he wasn't getting paid, which I think is understandable. It's worth noting, I guess, that Logan and his manager, I guess, they didn't actually participate in the rug pull themselves. He never actually sold any of his tokens. So Logan didn't literally scam his audience himself, but he definitely created the means in which the scam took place. That's for damn sure. Without his audience, the project wouldn't have been anywhere near as big as it was. Most of the people that bought in only heard of the project through Logan's podcast when he started promoting it like crazy.
September 1st, Cryptozoo.co.
So I still blame Logan quite a bit for this. So then Coffee made his 3-part series investigating Logan and the scam, to which Logan responded with that terrible response that I showed you a second ago, threatening to sue Coffee for defamation. The response got so much backlash that Logan was basically forced to take the video down and make a new one. And the new one, I'll admit, wasn't too bad. At least it wouldn't have been too bad if anything that he said was going to happen actually happened. One of the main things that he said that he was going to do was invest about 1,000 Ethereum to help with refunding his victims.
We want to offer a rewards program for players who are disappointed in the status of the game. So essentially you're going to be able to burn your base egg or your base animal for the mint price, which was 0.1 ETH. I am personally committing 1,000 ETH to this.
Which I believe is equal to about 1.6 million USD, but I think this shit changes all the time, so I don't know what it was at the time. Right now, as of looking it up, it says 1.6 million, which is still nowhere near as much as the victims were scammed out of, but I mean, at least it's something, right? This was all happening back in December and January. 2 months ago, in June of 2023, CoffeeZilla made a follow-up video checking in on Logan. He explains in the video that even though it had been over 6 months since all of this stuff happened, 6 months at the time, and that this was almost 2 months ago we made the video, but Logan has still not paid back a single dollar that he promised.
It's been 6 months, so here's a follow-up. Logan Paul has not paid back his victims. He hasn't talked about it since he first announced he was going to pay them back. And what's worst of all, he doesn't seem to have a plan in place to refund anyone.
I think honestly, Logan seems to just be on a tour of destroying his image completely as of late. I genuinely can't understand why he would do any of this. The only thing I could think is just pure greed. The man's got all the money in the world, dude. But I guess when you're at that level and you've got the mindset of, what was the Maverick? I guess it's never enough, right? But this Cryptozoo thing isn't the only thing that he's done recently that's contributed to his image kind of shattering. Again, there was also the time a few months ago where he insulted his friend, George Janko. He insulted his religion. Logan told George that he needed a therapist for believing in Jesus.
I'll be honest with you, bro. Jesus Christ fucks.
Oh, God, bro.
And people don't think that about him.
You don't, I think you're so giant with your words, you really don't know what you step on when you say things. Like, really, like, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way or trying to pull at you. I think that you have so much going on in your life and you're so, like, power driven that you will mow past your friends and family without knowing.
If I say something, I've said it intentionally. You sound pretty specific in your recollection of your memory right now. Can you give an example of
one that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in Jesus.
No,
that one hurt me.
No, I didn't. I said you need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you, which is true.
No, you didn't. I don't want to stand down. No, you didn't.
So that's, you can imagine the backlash he got for that. Logan's been seen talking on multiple occasions about the amount of money that he's making. Like this interview with Logan and KSI. When asked about the numbers to do with Prime, he says that they earned $45 million in January alone, just from Prime.
I don't know if you want to say the numbers.
Go on,
say the numbers.
Give us the digits.
Come on, Logan. Give us the digits.
You want the numbers?
Yeah, we want the numbers.
What are we dealing with here?
All right. In year one, we cleared $110 million in retail sales. Sorry, excuse me. 250 million in retail sales.
Oh, sorry, that was a little mistake.
110 million gross internally. In January of this year, we did 45 million.
Oh, only in January?
Yeah.
45 million in a month. And Prime has only continued to grow since. Logan also works for the WWE.
It's going to be a great ad for his brand. Because Paul's going up to the top rope.
What are you going to do? Huh? Prime time. Enjoy this set. Are you mad? You mad, bro?
Rollins just... Oh, my goodness!
Getting paid millions. I don't know exactly how much he's getting, but it's enough to apparently purchase a private jet.
We flew on a private jet, which is like, we get to do that. We're very lucky enough to get to do that. But like you bought the plane, which is new. Like usually somebody else covers the expenses of the PJ.
Shout out WWE.
So with Logan making all this money, why is it so hard for him to pay back the 1.6 or apparently 1.8 million that he had already promised that he would return to the victims of his scam? It's pure greed. Logan seems to have lost himself entirely. And like, he's literally only in this for the money at this point. I mean, not that he wasn't always a questionable character, but his true colors are really starting to show. It's kind of crazy that Logan has seemingly flipped his image so much that Jake is now somehow looked at as the mature brother. If you don't know what I'm talking about, because you have a life and better things to do all day than keep up with random internet drama all day. On August 5th, 2023, Jake Paul had a boxing fight against UFC fighter Nate Diaz. It wasn't exactly the event that was the problem, I guess, but it definitely seems to have been the catalyst for another fight that ensued between the two of them. Logan and Jake, that is. Not like a literal fight, but internet beef. According to Jake, the two of them fighting would never happen. Even though a year ago, he said that it probably would happen eventually.
Logan and I talk about it all the time. Parents don't want us to do it. They're like, absolutely not. You know, why would you do that? I think Logan and I like to make history and do shit differently and spin the narrative. And I think for that reason, the fight one day will happen.
But, you know, I guess things can change in a year. But that's besides the point. A few days after Jake won his fight, he went on Logan's podcast, Impulsive, where they started having a bit of a disagreement. Logan begins by being upset with Jake that he wasn't allowed to bring a bottle of Prime in with him to the event.
Nikisa banned DAZN from mentioning or bringing in Prime to the stadium. They said I would get kicked out if I brought a Prime bottle. That's fucking ridiculous, dude.
The reason for this is because Jake is sponsored by a competing sports beverage company called Celsius, and they were helping fund the event, and they didn't want Prime logos everywhere to show up in the background, you know, for marketing purposes, which makes sense. But Logan seemed to take it really to heart, as if Jake was the sole reason for this, when in reality, I can't imagine Jake cares that much either way.
That's the brands getting involved. I have no say in that. I don't give a fuck.
This then led to Logan confronting Jake about basically stealing the Nate Diaz fight away from him, saying that Nate only chose to fight Jake because he was the easier fight.
I'm tired of not being picked because you're an easier fight.
Is that what you really think in your head?
I'm Jake.
Me and Nate Diaz have been talking about that for years, and then you popped up and were like, no, now it's my turn, I want that fight, and then start talking shit and then try to like get the fight in Saudi Arabia, like on the microphone, and like trying to like jump in on all of these things.
I think I'm better than you, and I think Nate chose you for a reason, and I think everyone knows that.
Which started a whole nother argument between the two about who's better at boxing, that is.
You think because you lost a fight to Floyd Mayweather that you're better than me at boxing?
You said I won the fight, but Nate chose you over me.
Is it
Why
because-
would, no.
but
Why
he's-
would Nate do that?
But Ariel Helwani asked him to his face. And he said because his brother hasn't fought anyone in a real fight, he hasn't knocked out any MMA fighters, he wanted the most real, professional, legitimate fight. That's what he said.
And I think they're like genuinely fighting about this. Like this is like a real like problem in their relationship. I don't really watch boxing. I used to watch some UFC fights with my dad when I was younger, and he'd put them on. From what I can tell, Jake has been doing basically nothing but training and practicing to be a boxer for the last few years. Logan hasn't. I mean, he's had so much other stuff going on with Prime and the WWE, and you know, I just can't imagine him being the more skilled of the two when Jake has been putting his heart and soul into it for years at this point. I think it's just like a sort of big brother instinct almost, where he just wants to, or I guess almost has to be better than Jake just because he's the older one. And according to Jake, he says it's been that way since they were kids, basically.
And Logan has even said it. What, you always have people around. You always have so many people around. It's because I was like so lonely as a kid, and I never had like the brother that I wanted.
But all that being said, we haven't seen Logan box in years at this point, as he keeps pointing out. So I guess we'll find out how good he really is when he fights Dillon Danis next month. Speaking of Dillon Danis, have you seen what's been going on with him and Logan recently? Anyone who knows fighting knows that it's common to have some banter back and forth between fighters before an event to build up hype and such. Well, Logan and Dillon have a fight coming up next month in October. And Dillon hasn't been holding back any punches when it comes to the trash talk sector. You see, about 2 months ago, Logan got engaged to a woman named Nina Agdal. She is a supermodel who's been in the public eye for the better part of a decade at this point. And she's had got some very public relationships with different celebrities. Well, over the past few weeks, Dillon has been taking to Twitter and posting what is now added up to over 150 pictures of Logan's fiance with different men that she used to date. Some of these pictures are photoshopped, I believe, but a large amount of them are very real images. And according to Logan, it doesn't bother the two of them being him and Nina. And they look at the images and laugh at some of them, which, I mean, fair enough, I guess. But if you've seen some of these pictures, I don't know if I'd be laughing if someone was saying it about my future wife. Dillon, at the recent face-to-face press conference that they did for the fight, showed up in a familiar hat, and he even called out Logan for the Cryptozoo scam, to which Logan replied with, "I'm working on it."
Where's Coach McGregor, and why won't he take my bet? Why won't he take my $1 million bet?
Why won't you pay back to people from Cryptozoo?
I'm working on it, Dillon.
It's hilarious that Dillon Danis, of all people, is calling out Logan for this, considering that CoffeeZilla has also made a video on Dillon Danis calling him out for promoting various scams and rug pulling them himself. At least Dillon called him out for it at all. Recently, I saw Logan had gone on Andrew Schulz's podcast, Flagrant, and I thought Andrew, of all people, would be willing to call Logan out in that environment, but he didn't. Not a word about the scam or getting any of the victims the money back was even mentioned during the podcast. What was mentioned, though, was a $1 million deal. Oh, wait, no, sorry. He doubled it to a $2 million bet to Conor McGregor that he's gonna win the fight against Dillon.
Conor, you know what? I'll tell you what.
All right, Dan.
I'll tell you what, Mr. Moneybags. I'm gonna make this more interesting for you. How about we double it? $2 million says I beat your boy Dillon Danis. I know you're gonna see this. I know you're gonna see this clip.
God damn.
You're coaching him. You're guiding him. He's definitely gonna show up, right? Yeah, fuck you. $2 million that says I beat your boy. I will send you the contract tomorrow.
So let me get this straight, Logan. You have $2 million that you can throw around and bet on yourself, but you're still working on repaying the $1.8 million that you promised your victims of your scam. Seems a bit scummy to me.
I am the one that can see John Cena.